Whether it's over Trump's grift on airplanes from Qatar or over RFK Jr.'s pick for the Surgeon General, significant members of the MAGA faithful are in revolt. For some, it's because they're actually not prepared to accept apparent corruption from the leader who, after all, promised to drain the swamp. Good for them. For others, it's because some version or other of the MAGA purity spiral is being betrayed in some other way, whether real or imagined. You could summarize it in plain language as saying that for some people, they are not keen on crazy stuff that is going to have bad consequences, whereas for others, they don't think the administration is being half as crazy enough as they would like. Let's start with the most prominent jumbo jet in the room. Trump has been offered a gift from the Qatari royal family of a luxury Boeing 747-8 jet, reportedly worth a cool $400 million. Because it was previously used for the use of said royal family, it comes pre-installed with Trump-friendly gold bling. And it's all much more modern and, well, blingy than the existing Air Force One plane, which is 40 years old and a bit too workaday for Trump's tastes. Needless to say, the idea of a president accepting such a gift is massively controversial. Because, I mean, look, in the UK, Prime Minister Keir Starmer got at least a week's worth of vociferous criticism for accepting tickets to a Taylor Swift concert. So, yeah, the acceptance of gifts of any significant size is frowned upon in just about all governments that strive to stay free of routine corruption and bribery, which used to include the United States. Now Trump was saying that it was just dandy to accept the plane as a gift, and only Democrat losers would think otherwise. Senator Tommy Tuberville certainly wanted the world to know that he was no such loser, as he told CNN that free is good. You know, we don't have a lot of money right now to buy things like that, said someone from the richest country in the world. But it turns out quite a few non-Democrats have severe misgivings as well. So on the one hand, Daily Wire co-founder Ben Shapiro said that it looked bad for the administration. He noted that if we switched the names to Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, we'd all be freaking out on the right. Stressing to his supporters that he was only criticising because he wants the administration to be successful, he went on to say this: "The administration's policy is too important for this sort of activity. President Trump promised to drain the swamp. This is not, in fact, draining the swamp." Now, I give credit to Ben Shapiro because on this and previously on tariffs and several other issues, he has been prepared to argue a very strong case as to why the administration is doing something wrong. Given the fury and vindictiveness that can often follow any such criticism, and given how much his audience is key to his whole operation, it takes a degree of courage to stand up for what you believe in and say to your audience what they need to hear, not what you know they want to hear. Batya Ungar-Sargon, a MAGA champion who appears sometimes on CNN and other channels, told Newsmax, "This is not a gift, it's a bribe." National Review contributing editor Andrew McCarthy said that accepting such a gift was indefensible. The president and his flacks again demonstrate that they don't grasp the concept of constitutional duty and conflicts of interest. And it turns out that the Russian disinformation bots disagree. Unusual to get such a wide split between MAGA and Russia on such matters. This was drawn attention to by talk radio host Eric Erickson, who had sourly commented that Attorney General Pam Bondi, who signed off on the gift being legal, she was previously a paid lobbyist for Qatar. But then I expect, like Elon Musk, she was stringently and conscientiously self-policing on conflict of interest issues, so I'm sure it's just fine. But he then went on to say that while he's seen a lot of known Trump supporters who were not thrilled, to say the least, with the gift, his Twitter account was now being flooded with bots who he didn't recognise, pushing pro-Trump, pro-jet receiving propaganda. If only they would remember those people, those influences, when what they're saying happens to line up with the things they agree with. Sorry, I don't know what I was thinking of there. This was the first example of serious MAGA disquiet. Now, another example is over Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s pick for the position of Surgeon General. This is wellness influencer Casey Means. Casey Means has some very sensible things to say about how one of the biggest health issues is the disaster zone of the American diet. Hard to disagree with that in principle, and of course very much in line with that part of RFK Jr.'s agenda that isn't counter to current best science. She does, however, go into the woo-woo sphere once you dig into the detail. In her best-selling book, Good Energy, she suggests that unhealthy lifestyles cause just about all diseases you can think of, with a proposition that having the right diet and a positive mindset can basically replace any need for modern medicines whatsoever. I mean, I believe in diet and positive mindset. I think those are good things. I rather doubt they alone would make me invulnerable to all the ills of the world. She is also, of course, a vaccine skeptic. She's against birth control pills because of the natural cycles of life or something. And when looking for love at 35 years old, she described working with a medium, doing full moon ceremonies and plant medicine experiences. Oh, and asking for help from trees, because you never know. So you might be assuming the MAGA faithful are in revolt against this pick because she is just too woo-woo. They found their limit. And while taking medical advice from random YouTubers who claim to be doctors, that would be just fine. Literal tree hugging? Yeah, sounds too much like the other side. Actually, as Michelle Goldberg points out in the New York Times, it's more because of the opposite. In the ways that MAGA takes as points of faith, she's simply not out there enough for them. Because, as I mentioned, she's vaccine skeptical rather than full-on MAGA fiercely anti-vaxxer. She thinks that vaccines are inappropriately used in some circumstances, rather than believing that they're, a tool of the devil, or more likely Bill Gates, I suppose, to depopulate the world. So radio host Shannon Joy said, "While I appreciate their concerns about food and chronic health, it is slightly bizarre to me that they continually minimise the impact of vaccines." And anti-vaxxer Naomi Wolf said, "It looks to me as if both Casey Means and Callie Means have been sent to us by scarier interests than the CIA." Indeed, even RFK's former running mate, Nicole Shanahan, wrote that someone unknown seemed to be secretly controlling RFK, which might explain why he was turning to someone she described as very artificial and aggressive. Now, I did mention the purity spiral, the mechanism by which communities of avowed non-conformists compete to see who can non-conform most perfectly, and to punish those who don't match up precisely. Ironically, of course, President Trump himself made his biggest positive contribution to the United States in his first term by getting the Operation Warp Speed process for producing COVID-19 vaccines faster than had previously been expected to be possible. An achievement he went on to somewhat undermine with his, shall we say, extremely shaky grasp of the rest of the operation. But even so. Now, it seems as though that can be overlooked by the faithful, since Trump has at least put a true believer in charge in the form of RFK Jr. And then RFK Jr. turns out to be a letdown for the truly pure, since he responded to the attacks on Casey Means by accusing them, her critics, of being paid shills for big food. And this is the inevitable failure point for MAGA, because mostly what they have to throw at their opponents is accusations of being part of a big conspiracy. And like extremist groups everywhere, ultimately the people they fall out with the most severely are the people within their own movement, the people who are nearly like them but a little bit different, at which point they level the accusations at each other because they've rendered themselves incapable of actual reasoned discussion and seeing someone else's point of view. So I would say these are all early signs. Trump's MAGA movement is going to fail. Firstly, because his administration will ultimately implode thanks to its inherent dysfunctionality and disconnection from reality. But as it does so, what we're getting is that the MAGA movement of true believers that props it up will almost certainly dissolve into mutual recrimination and infighting as well. The problem of the circular firing squad, which in recent years was a special skill boasted more on the left, is coming to the MAGA right because they have the same features that create it. The arguments over ideological purity, alongside the disconnection from the reality of people who don't share their common language. Now, all of this is still in the early days, but it's interesting that already some of even the most faithful are spotting that the Trump team is really quite into the casual corruption of their position. There's been lots of signs, the meme coins, the pay-to-play games, the insider trading. But, okay, it took a big shiny airplane for most of them to notice, because it's big and shiny and golden and hard to miss. Think how many more opportunities there are to come. And I'm here for it. The more the base can split, and if some turn against the leadership because of the corruption and other going to total la-la land, the less likely that it remains a useful and powerful force to be picked up by a potential authoritarian successor. For those of us who suspect that Trump is merely the John the Baptist for the true autocrat who shall come next, this is as hopeful a sign as we can take from circumstances as they are right now.